Olá, bem-vindo a todos para mais uma conversa com GEGRADI. Hoje nós estamos recebendo o professor John Brown, que é o diretor da Escola de Arquitetura, Planejamento e Paisagismo da Universidade de Calgary. A palestra vai ser, então, em inglês hoje, mas quem quiser postar perguntas no chat em português, a gente traduz, não tem problema nenhum. Então, agora eu vou mudar o idioma, então. Welcome, everyone, to our lecture series, Talks with GEGRADI. Today, our guest is Professor John Brown. He is the Dean from the School of Architecture, Planning and Landscape at the University of Calgary, which is where I studied. And Professor John Brown was part of my supervisory committee, which I am very thankful for. I would like to thank you for being here with us today and sharing some of your research experience and everything. So Professor John Brown is also a registered architect and founding principal both of Housebrand Construction and FABhome. He is a recognized authority on residential practice, new models of architectural practice, and age and community design. In 2003, he received the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada Award of Excellence for innovation for his development of Housebrand. In 2009, he received a leadership award from Residential Architect magazine in recognition of his work to increase public awareness about the value of design. He completed his PhD in 2016, entitled Going Home, Future Adaptive Building for Aging in Place, from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia. And the PhD led to the Age in Place Laneway House research project, which received Mayor's Urban Design Award in Housing Innovation. He is also the president of the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada. We are very happy that you are here with us, and I am going to let you talk now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Louisa, for the kind introduction, and hello, everyone. It's nice to be speaking with you like we all are these days on Zoom virtually. So one day, hopefully, we might see each other in person. I'm here today to talk about my practice. Although I'm the Dean of the School of Architecture, I'm what may be called a reluctant academic, in that I find myself primarily as a practitioner, a reflective practitioner. And so what I'm going to do is describe my journey through my practice. It's a reflective practice, so it is my academic research as well. And I've written about it, and as Louisa has pointed out, been recognized with awards and that sort of thing. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me just get that set up. And I want to do the entire screen. Wow. Let me know, Louisa, can you see everything? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, so yes, it's a journey from custom houses to mass customization to aging in place. And I wanted to start just by describing the context in which I'm working, which is the suburban North American city. And in that city, 95% of the single family houses that are built and being built in North America have not been designed by an architect. And the result is what you see on the side, the kind of all of the things around suburbia, the monoculture of suburbia, what the Sierra Club calls the dark side of the American dream, this big, formless, undesigned place where almost everyone lives. And so my challenge over the last 3 decades of practice has been to try to formulate new ways for architects to engage in this world where only it's either the very rich or the very poor have the benefit of living in a house designed by an architect. And much of what I've been working on, and as you'll see, is designed to fit within that and to resist this context. And so the question that has really governed my career is, how can architects intervene in this context? And I'm going to take you through a series of, sorry, Louisa, has something stopped?
It's back now. It's back. I think it glitched for a second there, but it's back.
It's back?
Yeah. Patrícia,
okay, so I have to
a tela não tá. Are you sharing the screen? It's not on the screen.
Okay, so I can share the screen again. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
There?
It's
so you
here.
could hear me while I was talking, right?
Yes, yes,
okay.
I can hear.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to go start with what we first started out with what we called the tailored home. So if you think about clothing, there are basically 2 types. There's the mass-produced one size, well, not quite one size fits all, but maybe 5 sizes fits all, which is what most people wear. And then there is the bespoke, custom-made suit, typically for men, or the couture for women, that almost no one can afford. And I was interested in thinking about the architectural implications of the middle ground. That idea of the tailored suit, where I buy a 42 tall off of the rack, and then someone comes and they adjust the cuffs, they let out the sleeves a little bit, they adjust the waist. And so I have something that is customized but still has the mass-produced value that comes from that form of production. It's not really mass customization, but it is the beginning of something. And so I looked at that and thought, and we developed a whole side of our business as we launched that said, well, think of your home as a suit and tailor it to suit the way you want to live. So it's about choosing the location of an existing house, coming in and renovating it within that, or rehabilitating it within the existing structure, and then adding new finishes. And so that's what we set out to do. And there are literally thousands and thousands of these bungalows that are 60 to 70 years old that are basically wearing out. They're in beautiful neighborhoods. They're close to downtown, but they don't really meet the needs of a contemporary 20th century family at that point. And so people were moving out into the new suburbs. And so what we did was develop a plan where we would work with people and help them buy a piece of property with the house. Then we would design the renovation, we would build the renovation, and then we would help them buy furniture for that. And so this is what a typical thing would look like. So the big windows in the living room is at the front, looks out on the front street. That little window in the middle looks out into the backyard, as does the kitchen. There's the floor plan. You can see how it is really related to the street, where the backyards are where everyone wants to be. And the kitchen is contained and small and separated from everything else. It's a mid 20th century vision of what family life would be. So what we would basically do in these houses is flip the kitchen and the living room around, put the kitchen at the front, make it bigger, and then add a living space with direct access out to grade. And so we would get this. This would be the sort of way in which the house would look, and we would be able to do that for not very much money. And we were very, very successful with this. We completed about 250 projects over the course of our houses, over the course of our career, and I'd say about half of them were tailored homes. That was at a time when the idea of building a new home on an existing lot really wasn't possible, except at the very, very high end of the market. And that's what it looks like on the outside. So again, very, very modest, trying to figure out what are the small things that architects can do that can make a difference to this housing stock as it's wearing out, where it's not meeting the needs of the families that were living in it. So the next thing I'll talk about is Housebrand, which is the company that grew out of that first experience, and we brought it together as a collaboration of 4 different things. So I became a real estate agent, or I'm not sure what you call it in Brazil, but I have a license to be able to sell and buy property. And I didn't really sell property, but what I did is help people buy it. Of course, we would do the architectural design. We expanded to include a construction company, which is very, very not very common very rare in North America for an architect to have a construction company. And then we opened a design store in our office to be able to help people do the full range. So what we wanted was as a kind of resistance or alternative to the typical developer new suburban house where everything is done for them. It's actually very difficult to do a custom house on your own. It's hard to find the trades, the contractor, the architect, get the approvals to do all of that. And most people don't want to. So we decided to have a system that would make it very easy. And we created a storefront. This is a street in downtown Calgary. We're on the top floor. There's a cafe on the main floor. And it's a shopping street. So we created a shopping environment. So this is what our architectural office looked like. And we were open during the week and weekends. And we just encouraged people to come up, and I would be there on the weekends to come in and talk about design, to talk about architecture, to not make it intimidating. In Canada and in North America, most people don't know what architects do. They think that they're elite and not accessible, and that they're going to be doing things that are expensive. And so they would be intimidated to even come into an architect's office. So we turned it around and made it a retail store, because everybody feels comfortable walking into a store, even if you know you're not going to buy anything. So we actually developed a very, very strong practice based on this idea of being accessible to people. And they could come in and they could buy a book, we could build them a house, they could buy a piece of furniture, whatever it was that they wanted. But really what we were doing was talking about the value of good design. Here's an example of one of the projects that we've done. I'm more interested in the systems and the processes and the business models than talking today about the architecture. I think that it's more interesting to talk about how the evolution of a practice happened rather than a specific project. But you can see we were interested in a modern, simple aesthetic of clean lines, and it's sustainable. This has solar panels and all of those other things. We're reusing existing property. It has a thermal stove or a wood stove for emergency heating and cooking, that sort of thing. So we did, as I said, we did a number of those for about 20 years. And in 2012, I thought I wanted to figure out what to do with the second half of my life, and I enrolled in the RMIT PhD by Practice program and started to think about what we would change, what would we be able to do in our practice that would be a little bit different. And so that really led to this idea of Fab House. And part of that involved an analysis of all of our projects to look for commonalities, for themes, for what we were doing. So this was just a sampling of some of them, looking at function, at structure, at program, at enclosure. And one of the things that we started to see at that time is that because we've been in practice for 20 years, we were starting to get a number of people coming back to us and saying, oh, we love our house, but it doesn't fit anymore. We didn't have kids and now we do, or we did have kids and now they're gone, or now my mom and dad are living with us, or now we're working from home, or all sorts of variations that were there. like most architects, we would design a tight fit functionalist program that's tailored to the way in which someone lives. And as life changes, the house becomes less and less fit for purpose. And so part of that investigation led me to Stuart Brand, who made the statement that was really a hallmark for me and for getting things, for changing, and that's that all buildings are predictions of the future, and that all predictions of the future are wrong. And it really got me thinking about what are we trying to do, and what is the role of the houses that we're starting to make. And it made me think about iPhones. That was, back 2012, the iPhone was out, but it was still one of those. And you've got a device that at one moment can be a telephone, at next moment can be a camera, it can be a library, it can be a radio, it can be a heart monitor, and it all happens within one simple interface and with one simple device. And I thought, well, isn't it possible to make a house that could change and adapt over time, so that it could serve a family that only needed 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, and then back down again as their children left, and could vary and do that. And so we started to set out to think about what that would mean, and also this idea about mass customization. So if we look on the left, there's a typical tight fit functional plan. And as we analyze things, we realize that we use the bathrooms, which are the most solid kinds of parts of the house, to define the rooms. And we typical within North America, because these are all wood frame with drywall, we would put the closets, the closed closet storage embedded in the walls, use that as sound barriers between the walls. Here we have the master bedroom with the master bathroom here, and then 3 bedrooms. This house was designed, I was doing my PhD, we were completely through the permitting for construction on this design. It had a small yoga area in the back, and had 3 teenage kids. And when I came back from one of my PhD sessions, and we were talking about this idea about it being adaptable, and shifted to this plan, where instead of having walls that defined rooms with closets, we had freestanding closets that could be then temporarily connected into the house, so that it allowed that to shift. And then it became, interestingly, about putting the bathrooms to the outside of the plan, leaving the center open so that you could have a variety of different floor plans. So when at this point in time, their bedroom is quite small for Calgary standards. This is their closet. This is a closet for their room, and then a closet for this bedroom. When this son either moved downstairs to the basement, which is what typically happens, and then goes to university, you could remove this and their bedroom could get larger. When the second son left, you could remove this, and the remaining son would have a large room, and then or shift it down and make a smaller study. And then finally, this would be another room that they could use for another purpose. So it took a long time to figure out the technology about how to do this, how to make these cabinets. Here you can see this is the mass customized cabinet. This is the infill that is placed to make it thermally and acoustically separate. And as builders of all of this, looking at the implications of how to think about a house where you're not doing all of the finish work, you actually have the opportunity to do larger rooms when it comes to flooring and wall finishing and painting and everything. And then at the very last minute, you install the walls or the elements that create the spatial separation. What's interesting about that is that there was a rather dramatic change in our thinking, and we started to look at from design and construction to design fabrication. How can we start to use the world of mass customization to not only build the kinds of adaptable houses that we wanted to build, but to use that adaptability to refine the construction process and reduce the time to construction for a custom house. And so we started to think about this notion of blocks and chunks and modules, the way you could have quilts that are each piece then comes together a larger whole, and then reducing the number of joints rather than having 24 joints at the final assembly, reducing those down. So we were able to, by very thoughtfully and methodically going through the construction process, we were able to reduce our construction from Well, we had started out hoping that we would be able to build in 12 months. Typically, it took 21, and you can see how many disjointed days there were, particularly this piece, which was the number of deficiencies that were going on, to actually being able to build the same house or an equivalent house for the same price, but only in 7 months, and actually have almost no deficiencies. So we were very, very proud of that. We obviously talked about it in our store, gave classes, and this is one of the houses that we built. We built about 12 to 15 of these. So here you can see in the front the way in which the cabinets, that front room can be an open study. We can take that glass wall out and put a piece of millwork in there and close it off. This is the front closet millwork beside that, so you can just see it there. So this is the front entry. So if you did close this off and make it into an enclosed study or a home office, you would move this to the other side of the entry, and this would become the entry into that room. So all of those spaces around it, the flooring and the drywall, the paint, are all continuous. So you're basically, over the course of a weekend, able to adjust your house and rejuvenate it, renovate it, without having to have a contractor. This is what it looks like on the inside of that. We then also, this was another one of those examples of the walls. This is the back wall of one of the rooms, and it is a closet that opens on this side and a closet that opens to the other bedroom, but it also is something that can be completely removed. I'll show you the floor plan in just a moment. And then we have another one here as well. So that wall there is actually going into the dressing room for the closet, the master closet, but it could come out and create a larger room. And then this is with my back to that wall in the dressing room. We have the same closets that, again, this could be, you could take this out, add a closet unit there, and this becomes a smaller child's bedroom. Excuse me. So here you can see all of the variations with this idea of having a permanent shell and then an interior that can adjust according to time. And it's been very, very popular. And we got very engaged in this whole notion of change, which brings me to aging in place. So that was about it was a 4-year PhD. I was in year 2.5, well on my way. That house was part of my PhD dissertation. And at that point, my brother-in-law was diagnosed with terminal cancer, lung cancer, and he came to live in my house for the last 6 months of his life. And my house is a house that I designed, and it's, architecturally beautiful and does all of the technical things that it should do. And he moved in with an oxygen tank and a nurse that would come 4 times a day and all sorts of issues. And I realized within about 5 minutes that the house, this architecturally great house, was completely inappropriate for someone with elevated needs. And I started to think about change in a different way. Coincidentally, or interestingly and prophetically, Johnny was also a gerontology doctor. He looked after seniors, and he had a practice where he did house calls, and all he did all day was go to their houses and help them. And he would tell me, sometimes I think I'm the only person they see in a week, and I'm only there for 20 minutes. And so I had hurt my back at the time, and I was recovering in bed, and he was in the next room dying. And for that 6 months, we talked a lot about growing old and about the challenges of all of that. And I realized that if I was interested in change, and if all buildings are predictions and all predictions are wrong, I really needed to think more carefully about what might it mean to think about growing old. And how could I create an environment in which that notion of change, which becomes, as we grow old, drastic, consequential, unexpected, and not particularly pleasant, how can I as an architect try to change that? How can I try to make that better? And so in the midst of my PhD, I did a complete 180, well, maybe not 180, maybe 140 degree turn, and shifted into aging in place. And as a result of that, changed our entire business model. My partner, Karina, who's watching from downstairs, and our other partner, Matthew, we decided that we were going to go all in on this and close down a 25-year-old design and construction company, or in the process of doing that, and launching a startup that is looking at housing for seniors, which I'm going to describe to you right now. So when you have houses that don't fit, people get put into homes that nobody wants to live in. 89% of Canadians have declared that they do not want to go to a nursing home, and yet 75% of them will end up there, often prematurely, before it's medically necessary, simply because they can no longer safely live in their existing homes. And so if something happens and you go to the hospital, the way the hospital system is set up, you're not allowed to discharge someone to their home if it's unsafe. And so you end up in these kinds of places. So I want to just do a quick graph of what happens. So we've got age on the bottom, ability. We start out in the green line when we're young. Somewhere around the age of 18, our abilities start to exceed or at least equal what it means to live in a typical house. That means we can do the laundry, we can cook our own clothes, we can bathe ourselves, we can dress ourselves, we can get up the stairs, we can do all the things, we can pay the bills, do all the things we need to do, which means we then become independent. And everything is great along there until suddenly it's not. And that could happen when we're 25 or 45 or 65. But at some point, and ideally, because growing old is not a disease, it's an achievement, something will happen and we will reach that point again, either through physical decline, cognitive decline, or chronic disease, where we're not able to live in that house anymore. And at that moment in time, it becomes unsafe. A number of people do continue to live in their house in an unsafe condition, and then they run into an emergency. And when that happens, they're suddenly down at the demand level of a care facility, which in a care facility, you don't even have to get dressed to go and have dinner. There's absolutely no demand. There's no need for you to do anything because it's set for the lowest common denominator of care for those who need it the most. And so you have this ability gap, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And so people are going into these facilities before it's medically necessary and basically having an awful time. When you need it, when you need those care facilities, then it's great. But when you don't, it's a problem. So imagine what could happen if instead your house could adapt to match your changing needs. So instead of that being a straight line, it was a dotted line, and the house got easier to live in as your needs increased, so that you could stay living independently, and you had this assisted independent category was created, so that you were there till that point at the very end when you needed it. That's what that house that does that is what we're calling a garden loft, and it bridges the gap between your existing house and the care home, and it creates this opportunity for assisted independent living. So what we're really interested in doing is redesigning the future of aging. There's supposed to be a graphic here, but it was cut out because I downsaved this PowerPoint. But it's actually that little unit actually is coming in a crane and drops into the backyard. So the garden loft is a prefabricated portable living unit with advanced safety and support features that can be craned into the backyard of a single family house. And so there you have an image of one of those. They're about 38 to 48 square meters, and they look something like this. So again, thinking about that context of single family houses, which are tight fit functionalist boxes, there aren't rooms except maybe in the basement where there is a guest room, which is completely unreasonable for someone with mobility issues. It's expensive to add on. Not everybody wants to have an add-on to their house. Here is a portable unit that can be placed there, and then when it's no longer needed, it can be picked up and moved. What it really is doing is creating a multifamily compound with a shared garden space. And so, we used to have a tradition of multi-generational housing. We've lost that. We've designed houses that don't support it. But now we actually can, with the garden loft, we can create that. And so it's a 2-second walk to the back, to the garden loft from the house. But that 2 seconds is important because it maintains the independence of the person that's living there. And it also means that you're not a permanent house guest, and you don't have a permanent house guest. Everybody can retreat to their own private space and then they're able to live an independent life, but with the support and love of family. And they're also then able to provide some child care and informal support just by being there. And so that's, convenient for family, and it makes it easier to provide companionship and informal support. And part of the research that I did around aging was the guilt, the discovery of the guilt that families feel by not being in a position to be able to keep their parents at home and then having to send them to a place that they don't like, that's kind of awful. And so here's an option that is good for everyone. So this is the inside of the 38 square meter unit. You can see that it looks out onto the backyard, what that backyard looks like, that relationship to those same kind of houses that 25 years ago we were renovating and doing tailored houses for. Now we're making these small unit additions. The wood, the interior is wood. It's wood frame and it's light, and we had to design it so that it could be craned in, so it moves and warps slightly, so it's made out of wood like a ship, so that it can withstand that. And people say that it feels like a cabin, a Rocky Mountain cabin, or a prairie lake Canadian kind of our traditional houses. So people like that. Here you can see shifting over. It's loft. It has a lofted ceiling. It raises up in height. And what we wanted to do was create a great place, an exciting place, where someone wouldn't see moving out of their house as being a loss, but actually an opportunity where they can design their house with their, pick the fixtures and the finishes, have the full architectural experience at the age of 80, and create a space that is theirs, that feels like their house, that is their house, but then is also can enjoy the backyard of their family members or a friend or whoever, and still have that support. This is standing at the front door looking forward. So there's a central cabinet that has the television in it and a dining room table, and then the bed is behind that and the bathroom beyond. Here's the bedroom. This is showing a twin bed, but it also could accommodate a larger bed for two people. And then the bathroom. This is looking back towards that from the bedroom area, and then the bathroom. So of course, we know that we need to have more support, and the trouble with putting medical supports into a house is that it makes it look like a hospital, and that just reinforces to everyone that there's something wrong. So we took the architectural metaphor of eyeglasses, and eyeglasses are a medical device, but they don't look like that. That's not what they're chosen for. I have my black thick frames because it's a way of signaling to everybody that I'm an architect. And my partner, Karina, she doesn't say I look handsome, but at least I look better wearing these glasses than others. So that's what I stick with. And this is Pat, my former mother-in-law, and she's in her late 80s and was modeling eyeglasses for us as we were doing some work. And nobody knows what the prescription is in her glasses. Nobody needs to know. And so it's simply between her and her doctor. But the idea, you don't just because you've gotten old doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a pair of glasses that reflects who and what you are. We wanted to do the same thing with houses. How could we design all of those features into a house that provide that support without having it look like that? I'm going to switch to another PowerPoint presentation that does allow me to show videos to show you what some of those are.
One of the features that makes Garden Loft so special is right at my feet. Our fall protection flooring reduces fall injury by 43% compared to a typical floor. It runs throughout the house, including the shower, to keep your mom and dad safe and to give you some peace of mind. One of the features that makes Garden Loft so special can be hard to find. This very functional tea towel rack is also a grab rail for those with mobility issues. They run throughout the house, including the bathroom, and there's even a motion-detected nightlight for extra safety. One of the features that makes Garden Loft so special moves with the times. The height of the kitchen and bathroom counters can be fine-tuned to fit someone in a wheelchair, perching on a walker, and even someone like me who's tall and may have trouble bending over. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special really gets things cooking. The high contrast white knobs on this black cooktop are easy to see and simple to use. When connected to the smart home system, the electric cooktop can be set to automatically shut off if it is left alone too long. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special only comes out at night. Motion-activated downlights near the bed and in the toe kick of the cabinets keep you safe when you get up at night and directs you to the bathroom without having to turn on overhead lights that can disrupt your night vision. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special is best understood lying down. The optional electric adjustable bed can be set for reading and watching TV or to give your legs a lift. It can even be raised high enough to change the sheets without having to bend down. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special is the central cabinet in the GL380 model. The multifunctional design incorporates a 50-inch TV in the living room, a 42-inch TV for the bed, and an integrated table that can be used for work, dining for two, or stowed out of the way when you need more floor area. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special is a breath of fresh air. The bed headboard has a hidden cabinet for an oxygen concentrator, and the picture rail running along the sidewall doubles as a chase for concealing the oxygen tubing, and that helps reduce tripping hazards. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special is within easy reach. The tall bedroom cabinet has low-set closet rods for those with limited range of movement, and the kitchen has an easy-access pantry and waist-height microwave combi oven. One of the features that makes garden lofts so special is right behind this sliding door. The bathroom is wheelchair accessible with a no-step shower, hands-free washlet toilet, mobility grab rails, cleverly disguised as towel bars, safety night lighting, lots of storage, and an adjustable height counter.
All right, I'll go back to my presentation. So this is the floor plan for the 38 square meter unit that I just showed you. You can see how it works. It is a studio apartment style, basically for one person. There's a 48 square meter unit that has a separate bedroom. It's slightly longer, about 2 meters longer than the other. And then we also have a 75 square meter one bedroom, which is 1.5 units for a larger lot, or to be combined in a village setting. So we really believe that with a good plan and the right tools, growing old can be joyous. It's something that what we're interested in is not providing a complete service, but providing the tools where a family and the individual with increased needs can work out together how they do that. We provide the physical infrastructure, they provide the social infrastructure. The healthcare system that we have, the government-controlled healthcare system, provides the care at home or in just as well as anywhere else. And so it really is empowering and enabling people to be able to make their own future. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes and show you some other ideas that we've been working on. So this is a slightly different roof line for the units. We've moved to the single slope that you saw in the other line, but these diagrams still show that you can take garden lofts and organize them around a communal deck and garden to create a village. So we've been going out into small towns and talking to small towns where they don't have enough population to even have a seniors village, or if they do have one, it's out of date. This is actually attached. This is a community center, an underserved community center that has a commercial kitchen. We would take a piece of it as a common room, and then using this underutilized civic park, have the town place 7 of these units on the on that for their community. Here's another example using a small sliver of land where it is standalone, and so we created a small activity building here for a common room for the residents, so that they're able to, again, they're empowered to be able to create an environment on their own. And then this is an interesting project. This was up much further north in a very rural place where there is no town. There's a hockey rink, because Canadians are crazy about hockey here, for the broader farming community, but that's it. And this is a farming road. So what we created was almost like a strip mall, where there's a cafe, a library, and a wellness center that can be accessed by the public, by the residents, from this side, and then from a raised deck by the residences. So the cafe, there is not enough population in the community to support a restaurant, but this restaurant can exist because it has all of these people that are getting 3 meals a day, but then it's also open to the public. No one would go into a care facility to get a piece of pie and a cup of coffee, but they would come into this. Similarly with the library and the wellness. So there can be a massage therapist, a hairstylist, a physiotherapist come in 1 day a week. They can provide services to these people, but also to people within the broader community. That's what that looks like from the street side. It also destigmatizes living in this village, because you're going to the same restaurant as your son or daughter might be going to, or your friends would go to, and you can meet them there. And if you don't feel like going to the restaurant, you get takeout and have them bring the meal to your unit. Here's the back side, and it creates this kind of private garden for the residents. And so that's my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and to talk a little bit further.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's really interesting design, I would say. I'm going to start. I'm sure there are a few questions there in the chat, but I'm going to start off the questions. I'm sure there must have been a lot of research involved in the making of these homes these last ones, the way they are now. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit of how that happened, and how things, I guess, migrated from research into
Sure. Happy to talk about that. Yes, and that's actually that's a good part of the story. So once we figured out as part of the PhD that this was something that we wanted to look at, I was coincidentally contacted by the School of Medicine in our university, and they were starting to look at home health. And being good doctors, they looked for a specialist on the home side of home health. And I was the Associate Dean Research, and so they called the architecture school and said, is anybody interested in house design for seniors, or for people with elevated needs? And I was like, yes, I am. And so that started a really interesting collaboration with the school, where we worked for probably 3 or 4 years. My students and I built 2 prototypes inside a lab, inside one of our buildings. We did a mock-up of different kinds of laneway houses. So the idea, first of all, we thought coincidentally, let's make a laneway house because it was small, something that could sit in the backyard, and we just did that. And then when we were showing it to the doctors, one of the doctors said, boy, I wish I could write a prescription for one of those. And my partner, my wife, Karina heard that and said, that's a good idea. What would it mean if we wanted to make one of these something that a doctor could write a prescription for? And basically that would mean it would have to be portable. So that started us on the road of making a portable building. We then built a prototype, a full working prototype of one of the units, funded out of research dollars, and we moved it onto site. We worked with the city to give us permission. They helped us with the connections and utility connections, and we had people live in it for three months at a time. And medical researchers conducted research on all of the features and how they were used and which ones were working and which ones weren't, and all of that. And so we took all of that data and decided that after doing all of that work, building basically 3 prototypes, that we would commercialize it. So architects don't normally commercialize things, but other people do. So we went through the commercialization process, took the intellectual property out of the university, and then started working with an entrepreneurial incubator company that are now partners with us. And we're looking at how we can mass produce these. And then we have a business model where we can scale this across the country. So where before we were a small company doing individual houses, and we were set at a stage of not being able to expand beyond our borders, to now designing a company that's designed to be big right from the very beginning using mass customization. So that's long answer to a short question.
So that's very interesting. And so you had this collaboration with the medical school.
Yep.
And I also saw some features. You were showing the videos and apps and everything connected. So were there collaborations with computer science or something like that as well? Or
yeah, well, actually, no, we did a little bit of collaboration with computer science, and then we actually started another company and had got some research funding and just hired a consultant to develop an application, a digital app. So there's a smart home and entertainment system that's been there that is designed for people with impairments, visual and motion impairments. And it can also be controlled by family members. So if somebody gets confused and doesn't know how the television works, which is a common problem with seniors, the television is broken when it's just, the controls are just too complicated to use. You can reset it. You can come in, you can turn the lights on, you can set the alarm, you can, monitor things.
So I don't know if you saw, someone made a comment about costs that was there before. So it's about making these features more accessible, and is there a plan for that or something?
Yeah. So sure. So they are expensive, but what's interesting, and this is something that we are going back to the university research world to look at. When you look at the whole system, it costs the provincial governments in Canada about $4,000 a day to keep someone in a hospital bed. Up to, I think it's 40% of hospital beds, this is all pre-COVID, 40% of hospital beds are filled with seniors who do not need to be in a hospital, they just don't have anywhere else to go. So if you start thinking about, $4,000 times, what's that, that's $15,000 a month. It doesn't take very long to pay for one of these. So right now what we're doing is, they are private, and we are doing it in that way. And this is not a low cost, this is not a low income solution at the moment. But our goal is that once we launch this and can demonstrate that people can live in these houses in the community longer and age in place longer, and stay out of hospital and reduce the need for the government to build more retirement homes that nobody wants to go into, we will then have an argument for being able to have that, where then hopefully that doctor's vision will come true, where if you need one, the government will provide it for you, for the time that you need it, and then take it back and redistribute it to someone else. So we've thought about that. It's just that at this moment in time, it can't work in the way that we would like it to. So rather than trying to cut the cost of the unit, which basically would remove all of the features that make it possible for someone to live on their own, we've decided that we're instead going to prove the model at this case at a middle class. This is a middle class option. Because even if we've done a comparison that if you look at the cost of the unit, if you totally financed it, and if you had your family providing meals, but you had medical services and all the rest, the cost of that is right in the middle of the average cost for seniors housing in Alberta. So, it's, yeah, anyways, I think I've answered the question. I don't need to keep talking.
And have any towns, I can hear myself. I don't know where that comes. Have any towns taken this idea and are building a village, or it's working already?
So we launched the sales in May of this year. So we're just getting started, and we've got our first 2 sales arranged, private individual sales, and we're working with developers in various cities in British Columbia and Ontario, as well as in Alberta, looking at doing villages. What's interesting about the model is that it's something that's temporary. So you can put it somewhere and use it for 10 years, and then move it when you want to redevelop the land for something else, because it's portable. So there's some advantages to municipalities for that.
That's a good thing too. So it's adaptable for age and adaptable for the city too.
That's right. Exactly.
So taking the same idea from the costs and things like that, from the homes that you were talking about before, the adaptable ones that
yes.
your practice was building, do you think that's something that could be implemented in the suburban mass-produced development instead of how they are produced today?
Absolutely. That was part of the argument, the demonstration, that we can actually build it for the same cost as a typical house, and we can build it for a typical production built suburban house takes 6 months to build. And we, as a small company, not set up as a large company, could do it in 7 months. So I think we demonstrated that it is possible, and we actually designed the units. The units, we made them ourselves, but they were designed to the same spec as IKEA. So you could put IKEA cabinets in that as well. So it is possible to bring the cost down, to standardize it, and if you had it around a common module, it's something that someone could adjust over time. They don't need to come back to us. We specifically designed it so that anybody that's a little bit handy, or a carpenter or a handyman, could come in and adjust. So I think there's actually an immense amount of opportunity to do that. There was only so many hours in the day, and when we got involved because of my brother-in-law, and really started to see that there was such a powerful need for the seniors. They don't have a voice. Nobody's paying attention to them. That's how I decided I wanted to devote the rest of my life to that. And so that's an idea for somebody else to pick up, this notion of an adaptable house.
And keep going.
Keep going with it.
There's a question, yes, about the Canadian winter, and I think it goes for both models, but especially the ones that move in, move out, the Laneway house. So
yes. So we designed high performance shells in all of our houses. So they're all hyper insulated, and they exceed the building code. They're on their way to being net zero. And we took that same technology into the small house. So those houses are designed to last for 50 to 60 years. If we increase the spec slightly on the windows, we would get to net zero. So the house is it's net that, and that is an option that a purchaser can do. They can add it in. It is also all electric, so it can easily be converted to renewables. So it can be off the grid very easily, and it's very, very energy efficient, and the hybrid electric heating cooling system can keep things very inexpensively, can keep things warm. So we spent a lot of time working out all of that. And the prototype that we built has gone through 4 winters, and everything has been fine.
So it doesn't have a furnace and doesn't need the space for that, I guess.
No, it uses a small, I don't remember exactly the name, but it's kind of like the kind of unit that you see in a hotel room, where each one is there. And so it has a heat exchanger on the outside, and then a wall mounted unit that either heats or cools.
That's good. Okay. Let's see. I think that was all the questions.
We have 4 minutes left, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty
good. Right on time.
I wanted to thank you again for being here with us and answering all our questions. We have a lot of comments. Someone is asking, in theory, it can work. Oh, there it is.
Yes, it can work in any country. Yeah, the thing that it requires is it's really better for a country that has land, right? Like it's low. It works best in a low density situation. It was designed for the North American kind of context. Oh, thank you very much.
We have a lot of comments there, so
that's nice. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for the presentation and taking all our questions. And I hope you will be able to come in person to Brazil. Have you been to Brazil?
No, I have not. I was actually going to Brazil for the UIA conference in 2020 before the world shut down, so I didn't make it, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully another day, yes.
Another day. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Louisa. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for everyone who participated. I really appreciate it, and best of luck.